has the internet, have the network platforms altered the nature of politics itself? In other words, are we still going to be having left-right debates like you were having as undergraduates, I was having as an undergraduate in the 1980s, or is there going to be a different kind of politics? Is it going to be authoritarian versus democratic? Is it going to be establishment versus populist, growth believers versus stagnationists? How do you think about the new terminology even of politics?
Well, it's always hard to say because I think these technologies don't naturally always map in a very precise way. And so making predictions was a treacherous business for Eric Schmidt, and it's probably also somewhat treacherous business for us today in 2018. One axis that I am struck by is sort of the centralization versus decentralization axis. And so I think, Reid, you just represented the centralization thing, where everything happens in one place, and then it has to sort of get curated in just the right way, so that you have a good debate, but within the proper limits, within the right proper limits, and that's the sort of question that happens in a massively centralized context. In a more decentralized context, that would perhaps not happen in quite the same way. So, for example, two of the areas of tech that people are very excited about in Silicon Valley today are crypto on the one hand and AI on the other. And even though I think these things are underdetermined, I do think these two map, in a way, politically very tightly on this centralization, decentralization thing. Crypto's decentralizing, AI is centralizing, or if you want to frame it, more ideologically, you could say that crypto is libertarian and AI is communist. And of course, we always hear only the first half because we're biased to the left. But AI is communist in the sense that it's about big data, it's about big governments controlling all the data, knowing more about you than you know about yourself. So a bureaucrat in Moscow could, in fact, set the prices of potatoes in Leningrad and hold, the whole system together. And if you look at the, Chinese Communist Party, it loves AI and hates crypto, so it actually fits pretty closely on that level. And I think that's a purely technological version of this debate. And I do think so. I think there probably are ways that AI could be libertarian, and there are ways that crypto could be communist. But I think that's harder to do.
If all the cryptocurrencies are mined in China and Russia, that might.
I think that they're trying to stop even that at this point.
Can I follow up on the implications of that? Because I guess in Reid's world of not necessarily AI, but some authority authenticating or validating what is good news as
multiple
opposed to
authorities,
fake news. But there are authorities
yes.
That will give the seal of good housekeeping approval for some sources. Whereas in your more libertarian model, presumably through some blockchain decentralized architecture, we'll be able to differentiate the fake from the true.
Well, it's always in a centralized world, the question emerges. In a decentralized one, it doesn't emerge as well. So of course, the larger platform companies have a challenge along the lines that Reid describes, and I would describe it as a two-front war that they have to fight. They have to fight on the one hand, against hate speech, fake news, that whole ensemble of things, and then they have to also fight against the people who want to limit speech, overly narrow speech, in the name of fighting fake news. And because it's a two-front war, it's much more complicated than just fighting on one front.
Can we talk a little bit?
But in the decentralized world, it's much harder to set up kind of like, it's an interesting thing to say it's libertarian versus communist. You could say it's libertarian versus rule of law, right? It's much harder to set up a kind of a well-regulated. Yes, exactly. Yes, so it's actually much harder in the decentralized system to set up rules and norms. Like, for example, one of the things that's massive problem in the crypto community right now is it makes Gamergate look, relatively tame in the way that it treats women in terms of public discourse and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of problems that need to be fixed over there that are much harder to fix in that arena. Now, that being said, we both think that the invention of cryptocurrency is a important kind of innovation alongside the internet for allowing a bunch of apps to be developed within kind of the internet of money, the internet of value as a way of doing it. So neither of us are negative on cryptocurrency, or at least not negative the same way. But that's one of the virtues of the kind of the rule of law systems.
Well, but this is always like, I would say AI is a much more transparent world. And then the centralized world is more transparent. And then the question you could always ask is, what's the opposite of transparency? Is it criminality, or is it privacy? And from the point of view of a centralized state, the opposite. It's always, why do you want to have secrets? Why do we not know who you are and what you're doing? Why do you need privacy? If you're behaving yourself perfectly, you have nothing to hide. And you're a criminal. Only a criminal doesn't want to have transparency. But I think it can really cut both ways.
I want to come